Can't see what's going on outside.
Hey, police! Hey, stop them! They're getting away!
You'll just have to come with us, that's all.
Hey, police!
What's going on here then? Smash and bam! Oh, what, another one? There's always happening around here.
Ites de Solarro, Sci-fi Podcast.
Hello, this is the Solo One Sci-Fi Podcast. I'm Michael Ball. I think this is episode 178, although I should check that before starting. Never mind. We are on a very special show today. Martin and I have been on hiatus for about the last 3 or 4 weeks because we've had all sorts of things going on our ends, and we decided to have a break. But somebody has come to the rescue. Somebody I've known for a very long time. Although I didn't know he was into a lot of stuff that I was into until about a couple of years ago. And that is, also from London, it's Malcolm Paterson. Hello, Malcolm.
Hello. How you doing?
All right, matey. Thanks for joining me. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad.
So it's an interesting one here because I don't know when we got in touch with knowing when you're into sort of stuff that we're into, but I mean, you've been following the podcast for quite a while, and you're a person of strong opinions of certain things sometimes, which always makes for an amusing interaction.
Yeah, it's quite weird because when I'm watching it, I then tend to send you messages for stuff I don't agree with because I forget that you're not recording it there and then.
So we can't interact, but this time I can't avoid it. If there's something that you're not happy with, I can't escape you today, so that'll be fine. So first of all, I mean, we are going to review two movies in a series from the 60s, and basically they are Doctor Who, but they're not Doctor Who. They are almost like an alternate, different universe of Doctor Who. Nothing canon with the original series or New Who, and starring Peter Cushing, and that is, of course, Doctor Who and the Daleks. And Dalek Invasion 2150 AD, which I thought would be a good one to review. But before we actually review that, let's just quickly talk about anything in science fiction that you've been watching, anything you recommend. What have you been sort of like focusing on recently? Anything you could suggest that we should check out?
So I massively binged For All Mankind.
I've still not seen season 4 yet.
Season 4 is well worth seeing. I have seen a rumour unconfirmed on the internet. Season 5. It jumps 43 years ahead, so there'll be no cast that you've seen. It'll be a completely new show, but that was one of the notoriously rumor mill sites out there that said that.
Okay,
so we'll see what happens.
Go on, sorry, Zoom's delaying. I was going to say it is an unusual show because most shows they don't jump ahead like a decade per season, which I think gives it a sort of advantage over other shows in some ways.
Yeah. Plus, the very beginning of each season, you've got to really carefully watch the opening bit, and it flicks through the newspaper things so fast. I mean, luckily IMDb, I think most people have listed all the stuff that's happened on that, so you don't have to sit there with your pause button continually going, for fuck's sake. What else? I watched Silo. Silo is good.
I'm going to check that out.
One of the things me and my wife loved about that is TV now for us is so predictable. I mean, we literally sit watching TV shows going, he's the bad guy, he's going to stitch him up, they're going to shag in a minute, they're this, he's going to betray him, he's not going to go to, and it's just like, it's almost boring. The ending of the first season of Silo, I know it's based on a book, so people who've read the book know how it ends.
Oh, right, okay.
The ending, we definitely 100% did not see coming.
Okay, that sounds interesting.
We had our ideas of how it was going to end, but it did not end in any way like we thought it would, and that was really good.
Yeah, I've been watching the new Walking Dead series, the ones who live. Are you into Walking Dead?
Yeah, I just so I watched Walking Dead when it first came out. Yeah, and then we got up until the point where he has his meeting with the governor.
That's season 2. Yeah, the eye patch.
Forget who plays the part, but the one eye. And we by that point we were just bored to tears. We stopped watching it for years.
Okay.
And then we went back to it, and we watched it up until the cliffhanger was when Negan bashes the Asian guy's head.
Yeah, that's the beginning of season 6.
Again, whose name escapes me.
And
then we watched the next season after that, which I think ends with the tiger attacking the bloke and then joining forces.
Yeah.
And then we've never gone back to it because every season of Walking Dead is exactly the same. oh, we found somebody. Oh, we can live happily ever after here. Oh, now we're being attacked. Oh no! And every time you have to have a worse villain than you had before.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
they go through them, or they go for the governor, who was a shit. He was a really bad villain. And then you get into the cannibal people, and then we get to Negan's people. And let's face it, the heroes of this aren't exactly fucking heroes themselves.
No,
so you've got to have villains that are even worse than them.
Yeah,
which is going some.
Yeah,
we just lost heart with it.
Are you amazed though? I mean, there are literally there's about 6 or 7 series now, different shows. There is Fear the Walking Dead. There is the Daryl Dixon one. There's the one with Negan goes to New York, Dead City, I think it was called. There's a Short Tales one as well. There's loads. It is excessive.
I mean, there are questions I have with the whole apocalyptic thing. Is the first and foremost one is who the fuck's mowing all the lawns? You know, that many years of no one really doing anything, plant life would have overtaken everything. The grass would be 10 foot deep. But
the thing is, though, it started in 2010 and it's still going with contemporary times. So now a lot of the buildings and a lot of the cities are falling to bits, which I like.
Okay.
I like that. It's
the other bit is,
go on.
You've got so few people spread out over such a massive area, like the entire planet.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure that the human race is at a tenable level anymore to carry on. They would just be not enough people are having kids, so it would just be dying out. And there's a just to quickly change. There's another series we just started watching with Jason Momoa called C.
Oh yeah.
Which it's worth watching. The concept of that is a disease again wipes out. I think all but 2 million people. And the people that are left are blind.
I love those sort of shows. I mean, I used to like
the people that are left are all blind. So you have to. So first of all, it's a great show.
Like they're the Trippies.
But you've got to question why they're wearing decorative. I mean, it's jumped 2,000 years. The entire planet has been blind for 2,000 years. So why are they all still wearing decorative robes and earrings? And who's doing the carefully orchestrated scars on their faces? They're all blind. Who's building all their houses?
Sounds interesting.
But again, 2 million people spread across the entire globe. I don't know for definite, I'm not a scientist, but I don't think that's a tenable number of people to keep the planet going. I don't think it is. It's too amounts spread out. I think you need something like 500 people in one area just to keep
to actually make the whole all work together.
But then obviously the human race started with smaller numbers anyway and went on. So who knows?
Yeah, I mean it makes me think about the population explosion, because I think we're actually up to about 8 billion people on the planet, and only
I think it's closer to 9.
Yeah, only a few years ago it was 7. I mean, I find it quite alarming, quite frankly, because
that 9. So the workable limit for the planet is 4 billion. So we're already twice that, and that figure is predicted to double twice in your lifetime.
Well, they said that these people say that it's supposed to be flattening out, and it's actually going to go down. I'm a bit dubious about that personally. I don't know whether they're just saying
I don't see it myself.
You know what I mean? I mean, unless it's some apocalyptic thing.
As China proved, suddenly reducing the number of people being born does not change the figure at all. When you get to a certain point, there are too many.
Yeah, I know.
So even confining everybody to one child each didn't slow their production down at all.
Yeah, it's not good. Well, in the end, there's not much we can do. We can just have to. Let's not make this a doom and gloom podcast, though. We are here to talk about Doctor Who.
Let's
talk
about giant metal rock soldiers.
Yeah, exactly. So, shall we go into our focus of the week?
Of course.
Here we go.
It's the
Solar Sci-Fi
focus of the week.
All right, then. So this is one of 2 films starring Peter Cushing. I've actually got the details out while I'm actually describing it. These are films I saw. They used to be shown like on Lisa 2, sort of like in the on the weekend in the evening or something like that. I mean, obviously, Doctor Who is a BBC production, but these films were to make money because the Daleks were such a big thing. So while I actually talk about that and get some information up about it, what do you think about the first of the 2 films? Did you like these films?
Yes and no. For what it was okay. As a Doctor Who thing, not so much. I'm almost certain, because this would have been on TV when I was a kid and VHS videos hadn't come out yet to watch the old ones, I'm pretty certain I saw this before I saw the William Hartnell one.
Really?
Almost certain, yeah.
And of course, these 2 films are based on 2 stories of the original William Hartnell era. obviously Doctor Who and the Daleks, which has recently just been colorized, which I thought was quite good. And also, of course, the Doctor Who and the Daleks. I don't know the episode was. What's the episode called? The original episode with the 21
Dalek Invasion of Earth.
Dalek Invasion of Earth. That's it. And then, like I said, these two films were made in 1965 and 1966. They were obviously both based on. Obviously, the second one was made. Which one do you prefer, out of interest? Do you have a preference out of the two movies?
I think the second one is better.
I think.
But then I also think in the old Hartnell things, Invasion of Earth is better than the Daleks.
Yeah.
To be fair, it's the one I watched when I had them on VHS. It was the one I watched the most.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting because, of course, they actually redesigned the Daleks slightly for the actual film. They had a bigger bottom or something, but they actually used some of those props later on in a couple of the really old episodes because they ran out of Daleks. The Chase, which is actually
the third one.
Very, very good episode. I like that one a lot.
Which was also supposed to be the third film.
Oh, and I didn't know that. I knew they wanted to make a third one, but the second one didn't make enough money. But that would have been awesome to actually have seen that. I think that
the Chase, it would have been pretty hard going to make that into a movie, given the number of sets and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Another actor who, of course, was in the second movie, who unfortunately recently passed away, was Bernard Cribbins. And I thought he was very good. Did you like him in the second movie? Yeah.
I don't. In both films, I don't like the fact that they changed the Ian character into comedy relief. I didn't really like that at all. But that's possibly on second viewing after I've seen the William Hartnell ones.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm also not that.
Go on.
I'm also not that keen on Peter Cushing's. I mean, he's a legend, but his doddering professor persona does my head in. I don't. He does it really well, but it's not for me. To be fair.
Yeah. I mean, it felt more of a children. I mean, I know that obviously Doctor Who started as a sort of more like a children's program, and then it became sort of a family program, and it's just sort of, like in the 80s, it got quite dark and quite graphic in some of the Colin Baker eras and sort of stuff like that. But this felt like much more of a sort of family, children-based two films, the way that it was sort of came across. And Peter Cushing was like, oh, hello there, and he was a bit annoying, wasn't he? I think it's something about him which just didn't fit but then he was a different character. He was a human inventor, and I don't know why they couldn't just made the character still alien. Maybe like Gallifrey and Time Lords weren't actually mentioned until I think the third Doctor's era, so it wasn't that. Any idea why you think they made it more of a human?
No, I think
inventor?
it depends on why they're trying to make the film, because I got conflicting information. One was selling a film would have been easier to sell abroad than a TV series. So you sell the film and hope the TV series follows it. At which point, that kind of doesn't ring true, because why would you change it so much? Wouldn't you've just made a film with William Hartnell and those guys? Rather than
because
make it completely different.
And also, of course, it was running at the same time as the William Hartnell era. Or actually, might have been Patrick Troughton by then. No, I think it was still William Hartnell when they released both movies. And I always thought that was a bit of a strange thing. I mean, it was a clever ploy to make money out of a cinema rather than a TV show. But I don't know. I mean, do you think they should?
I mean, other theories are it was more about Dalek Mania, but I don't think Dalek Mania would have started until after this. So they wanted to make a Dalek movie rather than a Doctor Who movie.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Daleks.
In which case, that's what they should have done.
Yeah, I mean, they appeared in the second story, and the Daleks obviously took off quite a lot. But I don't know, as you say, Dalek Mania, when it actually was a big thing. I know it was in the 60s, but whether
they've only been in 2 stories so far. So does it seem likely that had already kicked off?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd have to look.
And that's it. And that's why they made the 2 movies based on those 2 stories, which is interesting as well.
But when I kind of watched Doctor Who and the Daleks a couple of weeks ago, I was trying to put myself in the mindset of a 60s cinema viewer who's like well into Doctor Who and has gone to see it. And then it's really disappointing. So first off, the colour's great.
Yeah.
But as with all recent colour, when the colour thing started, you got this quite a lot. Lost in Space did it. They go too garish with the colours. They go, it's like we can make colour. Let's look what we can do. So the Thals have got green, blue, pale blue skin and all of that kind of nonsense.
Yeah.
The Daleks all being various different colours, which seemed to be for no reason at all.
No,
didn't
it wasn't
really make
specified,
sense.
was it? No, it wasn't specified.
the TARDIS itself, the console room, is the worst console room until we got the
Jodie Whittaker's.
Well, all of the modern day ones are crap, really. As was Paul McGann's. Yeah, don't like any of them.
I like the Peter Capaldi one.
Having said that, QT Gower's new one, that kind of white area, that kind of white, going back to the nice plain white thing, I quite like the look. That one might be quite good, but I'm old school, man. I like the old console rooms.
I personally like the 80s, the revamped one that Peter Davison's era for the 20th anniversary. They changed it, they updated the console, but the actual set was there for years at that point. I love that era. I quite like the Paul McGann one as well, actually. I hated that as well. There is a website. It's like the TARDIS database or something, and it's obviously made pre-Modern Who, because it doesn't go that far, or at least it didn't last I looked. But that kind of lists details of all the different console rooms and the amount of them there were, even just subtle changes, like putting red lines on the console midway through Tom Baker's thing. But it also shows all the exteriors. And oddly enough, it says that the Peter Cushing exterior TARDIS is the closest to what an actual, in terms of dimensions, to what an actual police box looked like. Now, to be fair, I've only ever seen one when I was a kid, and it was on the A1. So we'd be belting past it at 80 mile an hour, so I didn't really get a good enough look at it. I just know I know that one of the last ones in the country happened to be on the A1, which I think might be where Logopolis was filmed. I'm not too sure. I love Logopolis, actually. That was the last Tom Baker story. I've seen real ones in Glasgow, and that's pretty cool. And it's really nerdy, but the one thing that they always got wrong, which they've only recently done, is that the roof of the TARDIS is supposed to have 3 steps up. And Doctor Who's only normally had 2 until the Jodie Whittaker era, which has got the 3 steps as well. And the Peter
it's either 2 or it's just a flat slope.
I hated the Tom Baker the Tom Baker one it had in the middle of his era was just flat, and it was the worst prop ever.
I think it was flat, and it didn't even have the white kind of lantern on top. It had a blue.
It had like a
kind of blue police siren.
It span round like one of those sort of 80s sort of police car ones.
Yeah, they didn't look good at all.
I really get nerdy about sort of like TARDIS stuff like that. I've always I don't know why, but it's just what I like about Doctor Who is it's just such an iconic aspect of Doctor Who is the TARDIS, and I remember when the new series was coming on, they had to fight for the right to use a police box, because the Metropolitan Police said that this is our design, this is supposed to, and they actually had some big issue, and eventually obviously Russell T Davies won, but imagine Doctor Who without a police box, it would be weird.
It'd just be crazy.
But I mean, like I said, these movies, it is an interesting. I've seen every episode of Doctor Who, every episode that exists, and even the ones where and it is strange seeing these 2 movies, because it's not Doctor Who, but it's not, and it's a really weird contradiction, and it makes me wonder whether they could. I mean, they would never do a remake now, would they, of like a separate entity?
I don't think so. I don't
you know
think
what
so.
It makes
I mean,
you
again,
wonder.
when I was kind of watching it, I was thinking, so you're waiting for the theme tune, and you just get that weird psychedelic and all that. Then you get Peter Cushing's in it, and you think he's great, he's going to pull off William Hartnell perfect, and then we get that doddering professor thing.
He's just a bit annoying,
which,
isn't he?
strangely enough, he used the same persona back in later on, I think in the 70s, in a film called At the Earth's Core with Doug McClure.
Oh, I've seen that. Not for a long time, but I know.
If you were going to make a Doctor Who movie, that would have been a better script. Arsehole the Daleks and do it with that. Doug McClure could have easily. Caroline Munro could have easily, or not Ian Stevens.
Caroline Munro would be good in anything, wouldn't she?
Yeah, Caroline Munro as Katerina, and the other guy as Doug McClure as Stephen, and then just don't have a digging machine, have the TARDIS. Boom, the movie's all there. Yeah. But I think this is why I think they were trying to cash in on the Daleks, and they should have just gone with an original story. Yeah. Possibly even gone with that. I know he hadn't been around. He hadn't been invented in the comics yet. But Dalek the Thal Hunter, was it Thal the Dalek Hunter? Was that his name? Thal?
Something like that.
But that could have something like that. But just had the Daleks just in their own film.
Because it was the Kallers and the Thals, wasn't it? Who were actually originally on. The Dalek. What's the Dalek home planet? What's going on in my head? What's the Dalek?
Skaro.
Skaro. That's it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so like I said, it's interesting. One other thing also, I didn't like the little girl in it as well, in both those movies. Like, this like 10-year-old little kid. Like, why have they got her in it? It's like, didn't need a little kid.
See, something that go on. I've had quite a few conversations with people on Facebook about a lot of people really hate when there were 3 companions, and I always say, well, there was originally supposed to be 3, and to me, it makes more sense when there's 3. And people go, oh, well, there's too many people to fit in, and I'm like, well, no, because you had Ian, who was quite intelligent, so he could at least discuss stuff with the TARDIS, with the Doctor, which gives us our exposition, which gives us knowing what's going on. And he can figure stuff out. And he was quite, because the Doctor wasn't, he's quite strong and brave and fighty. Barbara was more of the maternal figure, and Susan was the idiot who just kept tripping over things and stumbling into stuff and getting captured.
Exactly.
When you've only got one companion, that companion has to fulfill all of those roles. So what you have is, in this story, they're super smart, but next week they're an idiot.
Yeah.
The week after that, they're brave, running into battle and saying, we must fight. The following week, they're cowering in the corner, screaming their eyes out. And all that. So that, to me, is why three companions, or at least 2, works better. Because then you don't have to keep changing who the character is. Arguably, the only companion that pulled off the changes for me was Leela. I thought she did really well in that she understood more than she let on, but she could also be naive and silly. And she was also very brave. So I thought her character was the only one that stood alone really well.
It's interesting because I'm trying to think of other examples of when we had multiple companions. The 80s, of course, had Nyssa, Tegan, and Adric at one point, and I actually thought the 4 of them working together was that's my era. I like that's the era I was growing up, was the Peter Davison era. So, but then you look at the most recent era, well, quite recent with Jodie Whittaker. We had the 3, Graham, and the other 2. Can't think of the names, and that didn't work at all.
That's because the writing was shit.
And also the Doctor was almost like just another companion. She didn't stand out at all. I mean, do you think that it was a combination of Jodie Whittaker being miscast as well as the bad writing, or why did it just not work?
You see, it's always difficult to tell whether it's the actor themselves that are guiding the role, or whether the director is saying, no, you have to listen. I mean, rumor has it Christopher Eccleston left because he wasn't being allowed to do his own thing. He was being very specifically driven in what he's doing. If that same thing happens to Jodie, then I've only ever seen her that I know of in one other thing, and that's one episode of
Black Mirror.
Black Mirror. That's all I've ever seen.
I've seen it. Yeah, that's the only thing I've seen.
And she was quite good in that.
Yeah, she was.
So I don't really know.
She was good. Yeah.
We're also darkened by the fact that I, for one, did not like the idea of the gender swap. I will say it. When it happened, I was going to get on board with it anyway. I've never really liked any Doctor since my era is Tom Baker. So once Peter Davison, I was like, really? That vet? Loved him. Then we got Colin Baker. I really hated him.
I liked Colin Baker.
I really didn't like Sylvester.
I wasn't mad at Sylvester
until
McCoy.
I did.
Yeah.
So I've always been treat them with trepidation. So once the gender swap happened, because it was going to happen anyway, if it didn't happen now, it'll happen 10 years from now. So I was prepared to give her the benefit of the doubt, but the writing of those episodes was so diabolically crap.
Chris Chibnall.
And also they did the swap for no reason other than to say like, ha ha, and all that. We can do it.
Well,
had I been in charge, my daughter always said to me, she said, I want strong female characters. I don't want strong male characters played by women. She's always said that.
Look at Kate Mulgrew as Janeway in Star Trek.
Yeah.
I thought Kate Mulgrew was fantastic in Voyager. I really like her. I thought 7 and 9 was good. You can have some great, well-written strong female characters.
Buffy.
Think of, or Ripley. What about Sigourney Weaver? And there's lots of Buffy or whatever. You know what I mean? But
the Bionic Woman's ratings were I think at least 3 times what the $6 Million Man's were. People thought it was a better show.
I didn't know that. I've not seen that. I've got at least $6 million. I suppose we have to quickly ask though. I mean, as we're sort of talking about contemporary, obviously Ncuti Gatwa has just taken over as the 15th Doctor. Again, did it have to be a change of race, or I don't mind if it's a well-written character, but I just start to think, do they actually just change the race just to tick a box and make people happy, or you know what I mean? What do you think about his casting?
So yes, I'm divided on that one. I don't care that they did it, and it doesn't really bother me at all. Yeah. But on the other hand, it does bother me, like the Jodie one. They did it just to be like, ooh, and edgy. They didn't do it for any
look at
kind
this.
of.
Look what we've done now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if I wanted, for instance, a female Time Lord, how I would have done it is I would have introduced Romana in a series, with Lala Ward, had her regenerate at the end in an episode where she regenerates and the Doctor is missing, presumed dead. Have her run her own series in the TARDIS for a year, maybe two.
Yeah.
And then reintroduce the Doctor later on, either with the same character or regenerated again. Then he takes his TARDIS and goes off, she takes hers, and then you have two series running concurrently. One with Romana, one with the Doctor. Everybody's happy then. That to me didn't seem like too much of a stretch.
They are talking about spin-offs. Now that Disney have acquired Doctor Who, which a lot of people are not happy about. So we could be getting a Doctor Who franchise of spin-offs and things like that. And, the thing is, when a show gets too big and it starts to split off into all these different versions, like Star Trek and Star Wars have done it, and with mixed results, mind you, I suppose you could think that Doctor Who has already had spin-offs with Sarah Jane Adventures, which was based more for a younger audience. Torchwood, I couldn't get into at all. Did you see any of those?
Yeah, Torchwood was as good as it was bad. I mean, it had really great episodes and it had awful episodes, to be fair.
Yeah.
I never bothered with Class.
I saw the first episode, which had Peter Capaldi as a crossover, and that's it. I didn't watch any more than that. That bombed. Apparently, that did really, really badly. It was about, 4 or 5... I don't know, when was that? Several years ago. It's been a while. So I suppose really we should go back to the movie in question. So it's one of those things with Doctor Who. When I talk to people, I can go on for hours about it. It's such a sort of big thing. But I am glad that these movies were made. I do think they're an interesting different aspect of somebody who's made it and think, oh yeah, we've got the Daleks, these are cool, let's make it into a movie and let's make them all different colours. And but I just think though that where it didn't go well was the Peter Cushing as the Doctor. I think that was, I don't know whether he was miscast or whether he just didn't get how to play the character. I did read somewhere doing my research that William Hartnell was disappointed when he found out he wasn't going to be in the film. I don't know whether there's any truth to that or it's just internet bods making stuff up, but yeah, I definitely read it. They probably couldn't do it anyway because don't forget, back in the day they would sort of churn out about 40 episodes a year or something like that. They used to make so many episodes. Not like nowadays where you'd be lucky to get 8 episodes a season.
It's like you read an episode and you think the Doctor's not in this one because he was on holiday during that week. Like, what? So that's why he got caught and imprisoned, because he's not going to be in it for 2 episodes. Well, then obviously William Hartnell was very ill at the time. I mean, he was still doing it, but his health was failing. At that point. I mean,
because he came back for the 3 Doctors and he was just on a monitor because he was too ill to actually be shot, which is a shame, really. I liked his era, but I just think, with Peter Cushing, when you think of him as Grand Moff Tarkin, or in episodes of Space 1999 or the Hammer horror movies and stuff like that,
as a Doctor, his Van Helsing character would have fit the part perfectly.
Yeah,
that kind of, because it was that same kind of, I'm right about everything, you're wrong, and all that. Now I know that Van Helsing in one of the Dracula films, in one of the Frankenstein films, I don't know which one, he gets a bit rapey with the woman he's living with. So we don't really want to connect the Doctor to him too much and all that. But that character was definitely more on what it should have been, and less humour. One thing that really got me was how you expect when you make the move to a movie, you think the special effects are going to be way better. You think, yay!
No, they won't.
Now, firstly, they couldn't even, the guy who designed these new Daleks couldn't even understand the fact that the lights are supposed to blink in time with them talking.
With the sound, yeah.
He had them all blinking all the time. So you never knew which one was talking.
I never noticed that. I just look at that when I watch it again.
I think about halfway through the film, because I was looking out for that, they change it. And then you can see that it is the one talking does it, but in the background you can see they're all flashing, but this one just flashes in time with what he's saying. It does that.
I think also they used to have set the flashes were sound activated. I think I think that there is a mechanism where it will flash if it hears a sound. But obviously in modern ones they just have someone pressing the button, I think, when they're talking inside the Dalek, something like that.
But the other thing was the weapon as well. So the TV effect for its time for the weapon was outstanding. It is still a good effect, even by today's standards. That kind of negative.
I love that. Yeah, negative.
Thing.
Yeah.
Just when they did that. So in the film, they decided for some bizarre reason.
Yeah.
Well, they were going to shoot fire. It was going to be a flame, and then that turned out to be far too dangerous and far too expensive to make not dangerous. And then somebody, obviously they've set fire to something. Somebody's using the old carbon dioxide, so the legend goes, to put the fire out. And somebody said, okay, why don't we just use them? And that's how you got that steam thing, which looked absolutely crap.
Yeah.
And to my mind, it took I've never found the Daleks that scary.
No, me neither, not really.
But it took the Daleks into not even remotely scary territory. not like the laser they've got. That was when they exterminate.
And they kept the sound effects for New Who as well. It's still going. They've still got the same sound effects, which I like. And that also, this is nerdy, but every Dalek episode has this boom, 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 sort of beeping sort of background sound. Because I'm a computer sound guy. They still use that, and they've been using that since at least the 70s, which I thought. One quick thing, because we're going to wrap up actually. I know this is about New Who. Davros has been made into the new Davros. We saw him recently. What did you think of him? They've changed him.
So are we going to change all the Cybermen as well? Because that implies that all people with prosthetic limbs are inherently evil, doesn't it? Surely. And the Sontarans are all like midgets. So now are they going to have to be big tall people? Is that what we're doing? Yeah. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
And all of that.
So basically,
Russell T Davies is and always has been a complete arse. He has been since day one. He has.
And Eccleston basically says he'd only come back and sack Russell T Davies, sack the rest of them, and I'll come back. He hates him. He absolutely hates him.
Yeah. On the Dalek thing, there's two things with the Daleks. Firstly, I don't understand why people think they're so scary. There was again in New Who, you get the episode where they capture Earth. And you've got that video screen, and it's got Sarah Jane and Torchwood with Captain Jack and all that. And as soon as they hear the Dalek voices, they're all pissing themselves, hugging and kissing. Oh my God! Every one of you defeated the Daleks at least once.
And you'll do it again.
You've done it twice. Yeah. Why are you pissing your pants? I don't understand. No. I just don't get it. And to my mind, by now, and I've said this to a few people on the internet as well, to mixed reviews, the Daleks by now should be undefeatable because they strive for perfection, and yet they have the dumbest flaws on the planet. So they can fly now, woohoo! But they've got one eye stalk at the front of their head. By now, they should have a complete 360-degree dome where they can see everywhere all the time.
Still literally, the same design.
You can't sneak past one. You can't sneak up on one. Yeah. The arm, the one sucker arm, should be a Doc Ock style tentacle that does everything, moves and stuff. The laser should be something that can fire in any direction. Think like the Enterprise phaser array that fires anywhere else. It should be something like that. The big one, invisibility. They should have cracked that a long time ago. I mean, they did crack it. The only problem was power. They can travel through time, which we know.
I was going to say they had a special
amount of power.
They had a special weapons Dalek once, which was in the 80s, and that was quite cool. But we only saw we have seen it in New Who, but it never does anything. It just sits there.
Yeah. But the whole thing with the invisibility is, all we're told is it doesn't work because it takes so much power. But we know they can travel not just with ships themselves. Yeah. So they've obviously licked the power issue. So by now, the last thing you hear should be a Dalek killing you, and then they should have taken over the entire universe by now. I don't understand why their desire cosmetic only. No. Oh, now they're all gold and their lamps have changed. If there is one thing that the Daleks would not be doing as they change is cosmetic changes. Even when they go into that stupid paradigm machine and we got the dumbass Daleks and all that, even them, all right, so we've made them bigger and fatter and a different colour. Okay, how does that make them better than what they were before? I don't get it.
Now we've got 1 minute left of Zoom, so shall we carry on? Or all right, so we'll come back in a minute. Obviously, we're going to reset Zoom and we'll carry on. So this is a good discussion, so we'll be right back. All right, sorry about that. We're back now, and we were interrupted by Zoom. We're having a very good conversation about the design of the Daleks, and Malcolm isn't that impressed. So, what else did you have to say about the design of the Daleks that you don't like? And how should they change it?
The whole concept of the Daleks, just that Mark I travel suit that Davros comes up with, it just doesn't seem fit for purpose for what he wants to do. Take over the whole. I know obviously the idea of Davros coming up with it retconned it later on, but even if you go back to the initial Daleks when they come out, this was supposed to be their big survival suit and what have you, and yet it's a thing that glides along the floor, that runs on static electricity and all that, which is how they get defeated in the first film.
That's right.
And it just doesn't seem to make sense.
I
don't know, as a design, I just don't get why everybody thinks it's so scary. It's literally not.
It's more iconic than scary. It's weird. With Doctor Who, the two biggest adversaries, really, well, three, but Master as well. The Master, the Cybermen, and the Daleks, I think, are the top big three ones. But I don't know. It's weird. I suppose. Do you think the Daleks will ever get redesigned, which makes sense in the fact that they are a bit limited into what they're doing, or do you think they'll always just be the similar shaped exterminate kind
They will
of
always
thing?
be similar because, like the TARDIS, it's now become iconic. When you see a Dalek, you want to be able to know it's a Dalek. And if you think the slating that the Cybermen got from all the different, every time we see the Cybermen, they've changed slightly. Not so much in recent years, but certainly in the early years, they'd always changed. They'd always modified. They'd always got better. But nowadays, people just think, no, they don't like it. And I don't like the New Who designed Cybermen. I think they're just daft.
They've redesigned New Who Cybermen 3 times now. I don't know if you know that. They appeared with David Tennant's second season, then they've got revamped during Matt Smith's era, and now they've been revamped again during the Jodie Whittaker. They look a bit more like the 80s Cybermen, which I actually think was I don't know why, I just like the 80s Doctor Who a lot. I like the 80s Earthshock Cybermen. That was always my favourite design for some reason. So I think the first redesign is because they're not Cybus technology Cybermen anymore. So the first time we see them, they're parallel universe. The second time we see them, they're those coming from that universe. The next time they see them, they're our universe ones, so they don't have the C on their chest. That's it. You see, you know your stuff. You see, and that's exactly right. It would be interesting though if they had done that in classic Who with the Daleks. If they had slowly redesigned them over the course of decades. And like I said, they didn't really do that. Not really. They're slightly updated, but they're still the same basic shape. Which, like we said, they did use that in the movie, just slightly different lights, but a bit bigger, and the bottom bits were a bit bigger as well. Like I said, Doctor Who, the movies. What would you rate them out of 10? What would you similar or the second one you preferred?
The movies. The first one I'm going to go with a 6. Because it was ambitious to do what they did. I just think they did it very badly. The second one is slightly better. I'll probably go 6.5 with that one. I think the only real fault with the second one is the comic relief. They still try to do the mad comic relief stuff.
Yeah. There was a bit when
really like that.
Bernard Cribbins was a Cyberman, not Cyberman. He was one of those
Robotron,
and
Robo-Man or something.
And he was eating sort of pills in this sort of like weird kind of like canteen
which
thing.
Which is in the original Hartnell one,
is it?
But it's not played for laughs.
Oh, I don't remember that. It's been a long time since I've seen it.
Maybe the scene itself is slightly different, but he does end up disguised as a Robo-Man in it. And hiding. It's just not played for laughs.
Okay. So you think that might be a fault that they just try to make it more of a sort of family-friendly comedy, even though the comedy didn't really work and didn't sort of fit in. I think that it's weird with Doctor Who that it does sort of jump sort of genres. Unless it's more horror, but not really horror, but it tries to be a bit more horrific. Comedy in other episodes. But like I said, it is interesting though that they just basically got the two stories from the original show and thought, right, we want to make this into a movie, and what they did, I was going to rate it myself. I would rate the first one as 6, and I'd rate the second one as 7, so similar to you. I thought the second one was all right. It's definitely a film I can go back to occasionally, not too often, but and I think really what makes it for me is actually not Peter Cushing, it's probably Bernard Cribbins, because I think I really like Bernard Cribbins, and I think he was I wouldn't have minded seeing him as a doctor, quite frankly. I know that at that point the doctor was an old man, but it's really funny how his association with Doctor Who. He's one of the few people who's appeared, obviously, as different characters in one of these movies and the canon Doctor Who as well. Did you hear apparently that they only 50th anniversary, there was a bit, I think it was in Unit or something, where they had all these pictures of all the classic Doctor's companions behind that one scene. I think it was with Kate Stewart, and they wanted to have an image of Peter Cushing or something from the movie, and because of copyright, whatever, it's not some issue, they weren't allowed to show that. And that would have been fascinating if they'd actually sort of had a kind of wink or sort of nod to one of the original movies in an image in.
But there is talk that the Cushing films are now canon, because I don't know if it's a book, one of the big Finnish audios, or one of the reconstructed animated things. Right. Basically has them walk past the poster for the film, something like that. And idea that I don't know exactly what it is, because I thought it was horse shit myself, but it's like the Doctor during his time on Earth has done a home style telling of some of his stories to people, and some guys made a film out of them, and that's what the films are. Personally, I think it's bullshit, but a lot of people cling to it like the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Yeah, but don't forget, they keep retconning and adding new Doctors into, now we've got another Doctor in the Jodie Whittaker era. We never saw her before. And then we've had and yet we saw
William Hartnell literally choose the TARDIS, steal the TARDIS, we saw the point where it got stuck as a police box. Yeah. Yet this new Doctor, she already has a police box. So how does that work?
But we don't know where she we don't know where she fits in, though, do we? We don't know what era she fits in.
It's all supposed to be previous.
Well, that makes no sense. I assumed it was just something we didn't see between William Hartnell and the shape of her TARDIS is a sort of 60s shape, going back to TARDISes again. So I would assume that it was somewhere between William Hartnell and John Pertwee's era, but it's not. Yeah, no,
I'm sure they say she's supposed to be. She's one of the run of him before the Doctor had his memory wiped and what have you. So there was some nonsense like that. To be fair, I'd lost so much interest in the show. I wasn't really listening. I gained most of my information from reading the arguments and the rants between people on Facebook.
So have you seen all of New Who, or have you just, or like you said, just
I've made 4 or 5 attempts to watch the last series, and I can't do it. It's
the art thing.
So bad.
Yeah. Okay. Did you just see the last episode of Whittaker when she regenerated into?
Yes.
I thought that was all right. I thought that was a pretty good one. I quite like that one. Really? That was one of the better ones of her era, and that's saying something. If you didn't like it, then I wouldn't bother watching the rest of it.
Yeah, no. I do quite fancy to see the fact they've redesigned the Sea Devils again and blah blah blah. But no, it's just rubbish. Yeah. I don't like it. One thing that even really bugs me, and I don't know why it does. I don't like the fact she now calls him Master. You know, before it was always the Master, and the Doctor almost never refers to him. He talks about him to other people and says the Master does this, but he never calls him by name. He never says to him Master, and now he does, or now Jodie Whittaker does, and that's really annoying.
Yeah, because that was changed in the TV movie in 1996. That was when Eric Roberts was it, and Master is my name. He was a terrible Master. He was not. Master.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. Although still better than John Sims and Missy, to be fair.
I quite like John. I like John Sims when he was the dying.
Hated everything about it. John Sims was he was a version of the Master written by somebody who's never seen an episode of Doctor Who in their life and had no idea who the Master was. That's what John Sims' character was.
So you know what I'm going to ask you next, don't you?
Bullshit.
I'm going to ask you, who is your favourite Master? And I know what you're going to say. Go on. Who's your favourite Master?
Peter
Anthony
Pratt.
Ainley. Which one?
Peter Pratt.
Peter Pratt. Wasn't he the one? Hang on. He was the one that wasn't he in the episode before Anthony Ainley took over? Was he the disfigured one, wasn't he?
Peter Pratt. 2 before that, yeah. So he was the original.
Oh, he was the one. Yeah, that's Assassin. Right. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
So what I liked about him was he had totally gone over the edge. So previously, Roger Delgado's Master was.
I thought you were going to say Roger Delgado, actually.
But he was iconic. But I never liked the idea of, I've got you at my mercy, but I'm not gonna kill you because the show can't go on if I do.
He always does
I never really liked that.
He always does.
there's no real way around it. But what I liked about this one is now he's disfigured, now he's lost everything, all his regenerations have run out, and he is proper full-on balls out evil. He literally will do anything. He'll destroy the whole of fucking Gallifrey.
He didn't even see his face though. It was like a puppet face, wasn't it? It wasn't like really.
Yeah, well, it was makeup. It was an actual guy. With
makeup.
So
yeah, I mean, he didn't realise, did he? He sort of like had.
No, that one was like a big golf ball or something.
That's right. And then we saw another actor in The Keeper of Traken, and that was not.
While I don't really like his version of it, I do like the fact that he's slightly more healed, which gives you you the effect of that that whatever he stole from the Eye of Harmony allowed him to regenerate or come back again. So I did like that, although I didn't like the character. I didn't think he was very good.
No,
He's very big on big finish, I'm told, but I can't really get into them.
I've not either. I don't know why. I'm not. It's the same with animated stuff. It's like with I know we're going off topic slightly, but what the hell, we can. It's like the Star Wars. They've got some animated series. I've watched them. They're okay. I'm 51 years old now. I don't get excited by watching cartoons now.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the pilot of Prodigy, and I can see why the kids love it.
Yeah,
I can see why the kids love it. It wasn't for me.
No, I saw one episode.
Lower Decks, I just can't get into.
No, Lower Decks. Now everyone says that's the best thing ever from Star Trek. It's Star Trek: The Simpsons. I don't want that in Star Trek.
Yeah, I mean, people say to me, like my cousin said to me, keep watching it until it starts to get it starts to do like all the pop culture references and all that. I just.
Doesn't work for me. It's funny.
I did like the Strange New Worlds crossover though.
Yeah, that was. And what about the musical?
To my mind,
did you like the musical?
No, the crossover was one of only 2 episodes in the entire second season I actually liked. The rest of it I thought was rubbish.
Yeah, I mean the first season was much better than the second season, and they're filming the third at the moment. And what do you think about lower? Obviously, there's a Starfleet Academy series coming.
Yeah, I mean, I used to like Beverly Hills 90210, but I just
Star Trek 90210.
I'm past that now. No. You know, Star Trek Grange Hill. You know what? Every 3 years we're gonna have a complete new cast. You know. Yeah. I don't really care what they go through at the academy. How often can they put the cadets in peril before the Federation realizes that Starfleet Academy is like the fucking worst thing since Hitler and shuts the damn thing down?
Yeah.
You know, how often can we have these kids? So if they're not in peril every week, then it's going to be who they're fucking every week, and it's just I don't see it working. I don't get it. You know?
No, I mean Harv Bennett actually came up with this idea back in the 80s. After Star Trek 4, I think they wanted to do a Star Trek, a Starfleet Academy, something. I don't know if it's going to be a film or a TV show. It obviously didn't work out. But you know, I think the best. I mean, I know, like I said, we're just going off topic, but for Star Trek, contemporary Star Trek, for me, the only thing that's really worked and I loved it was Picard season 3. I just thought that was really good.
But I think, as we said at the time, the only reason that worked was because it kept harking back. It very well harked back to the beginning.
Oh yeah,
you know, to everything. It tied everything up. It was a great finish. Now they're talking about making a film with Picard. It's like, let them die. They could not have had a better send off than they did.
Yeah,
you know, much as Undiscovered Country was a great send-off for the original crew, and you fucked it up royally when you brought Shatner back for the other death in fucking Generations. Don't do it. Just leave Picard where he is with that final, the Enterprise leaving. That was great. Just don't do it. Don't do any more to it.
So do you think they should just finish making all these new sort of shows, and we should just enjoy?
I quite like the idea of Star Trek Legacy with Seven of Nine.
Me too.
Because she's great. The only thing I would say is, in the opening kind of monologue, before we get the opening titles, we just need to see Jerry Ryan, Psy, pull her phaser out and shoot that stupid fucking number 1 bitch in the face. Literally dissolve her. Yeah, literally, she just dissolves into nothing, and then she makes somebody else fucking first officer. Then the show will be brilliant. But as long as that Raffi's in it, it can only ever be shit.
You don't like it?
No. I mean, part of the reason season 3 worked was because she was only in it for about 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. It's funny. I mean, the new characters they brought in for Picard season 1, none of the characters were very good, very likable. Which is it's weird.
The character that would have been quite likable, they killed her off in the first episode, and I know she appears as other versions of herself later on, but the original one that gets killed in the first episode was the best version.
One of the two twins. You mean?
Yeah, one of the 2 twins.
Yeah. Yeah, it was weird the way they killed her off. Anyway.
Yeah, and I like the idea of the Romulan soldiery bloke thing that gets killed off in the second season. I quite like the idea of him, but other than that, it was a bit shocking.
Yeah, I know. Well, I suppose really this year, we've had new Star Trek, new Doctor Who, new Star Wars, a new Alien movie coming as well, and a TV show. So it is funny, and obviously we talk about this whole movie, but it is funny how a lot of the big names in science fiction that we grew up with are still being made in a new form. And it just makes me wonder whether Hollywood has sort of run out of ideas because they just, you know what I mean?
You see this all the time in Facebook groups where they go back and people always go, "Oh, Hollywood's run out of ideas. Oh, there's no originality," and that's not true. The remakes and reboots and sequels make up a very, very small part of Hollywood's output, but they are the ones that get the most marketing. So they're the only ones that
attention,
really
which is why,
they're the ones that cinemas will go for when they get their pick of what do we need for the new season. They will go for them because they're guaranteed money. People are going to go and see them no matter what. People will go, so they are guaranteed breadwinners. Whereas the more kind of under the radar stuff, like the Barbie movie and Oppenheimer and all that kind of stuff, they do well, but they don't get nearly as much credit for them.
Well, this is why. This is why I like doing stuff with Martin, because he tells me about lots of things I've never heard of, and we review all sorts of. I mean, I'm pretty well knowledge with science fiction, but sometimes, and every time I come across a film, I'll say, "Martin, have you seen that?" I said, "Yeah, I've seen that." I've hardly ever recommended a film to him that he's not seen before me, and one of these days I'll do that. And it's weird, isn't it, that some films are great but they just don't make it, they just don't get in the attention that they deserve.
Plus there's a very obvious thing. They tried to do something new with Picard, yet the show didn't really take off until they went back and redid.
That's because Patrick
Stewart
they
looked back.
Patrick Stewart
but
said
then it was massively successful. Then we had the new Doctor Who, the 3 spin-off Doctor Who. The first 2 films were shit. They're not the films, the 3-part Christmas nonsense. The first 2 were rubbish. The third one, from what I can work out, most people loved it. And again, it went back to things before. Unit was back. Bonnie Langford was back. We can keep saying that they've run out of ideas, but the most successful stuff is when they look back. And they go back and they bring other stuff up rather than trying to change it, rather than trying to piss on it, rather than trying to stick 2 fingers up at it. When they embrace it, it does well. And nobody can deny that.
And this is why I suppose the 2 Doctor Who movies, they just literally just wanted to retell in a different form those original stories in a more cinematic kind of way, rather than doing something completely original, based in something to do with Doctor Who. They just literally just copied those stories, made it a bit more, made it in colour, overdid the Daleks and everything, just because it was easier than doing something sort of new, which might have been.
People were gonna go and see it.
So it's not actually different then than it is now. It's obviously a repeating trend as time goes by, and I assume that will carry on. Well, I think I've pretty much covered it. I think there's nothing much else to say about this, but I'm glad you've obviously seen it, reviewed it with me. Thank you very much for coming on, Malcolm. Can you come back at some point?
Yeah, definitely, because we're definitely doing Blake 7.
Yeah, but I mean, you might have to wait about 10 years until I finally get that. I will watch it, I promise. I will try to watch it this year.
Do you know what, right? Because where I work now, all I do is either work on models or sit watching TV all day. That's literally all I do. I can binge watch a show I'll watch 10 episodes of a series in one day.
I do a lot of driving. My jobs involve a lot of driving, so I can't do that. And that sounds like a pretty good job, though. Just sort of like, be able to, and you get paid for it as well. You're lucky thing.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, if you're in the old car with a podcast, I cannot recommend The End of the World with Josh Clark enough. You must. The End of the World with Josh Clark. See what you think on that. Takes a little bit used to getting used to his voice, but the information in it is brilliant.
And I recommend to you 2 things I love, and one of them we haven't reviewed yet, but Martin has. First of all, is a short story with Kurtwood Smith called 12:01 PM. It's literally a guy who's he's having a lunch break and he's stuck in the same hour and he can't get out of it. And it's we have reviewed it. That's really. I think it's on YouTube. You can just Google that. And the other one I quite like, which I'm not sure Martin's seen, but a lot of people don't like it. I like it. It's a film called Miracle Mile from the late 80s. It's got Denise Crosby in it. It's got a couple other people, and it's just basically, it's not sci-fi, but it's this guy who he answers a phone call outside, and he realizes that LA is going to be nuked within an hour, and he's got to get out of the city and try. And he's just got a new girlfriend, and it's just one of those movies which I've always loved. You know, some movies you just connect with, even though people are like, oh, it's all right. But I recommend those two. So if you get a chance, check those out, and might be worth it.
There's
Thank
a
you,
TV
mate.
series called Severance as well. If you want
Severance.
something new and original, give that a go. Severance. Yeah, that's a good one to review. I'd like to see what you think of that one.
We also want to review the new Dune movies. I've seen the first one. I've not seen the part 2 yet. Have you seen either of those?
I've seen the first one. I haven't seen the second one.
Yeah, because I think that might be worth checking out. I heard that's quite good. I'm not going to see Ghostbusters. What's it? Frozen Empire. That sounds like it's terrible. Everyone's panned it.
Yeah, no, I'll wait until I can see it on the little screen.
Yeah, that's what I think I will do as well. Okay, Malcolm, thank you very much. Thank you for joining me. We'll be back again, hopefully next week with Martin. I think he's back next week. If not, we'll definitely be back soon. And Malcolm will be back with us at some point soon too. Yeah. Cheers, Malcolm. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Bye-bye.